Welcome. Thank you for lending an ear to the Voice of the Times for Sunday, April 17, 2022. For today's editorial, VP Leni's raids riling rivals trailing in polls. As the election campaign enters the final stretch, the camp of Vice President Maria Leonor Leni Robredo is reaching out to rival groups in hopes of catching up with the front-running fellow candidate for president and former Senator Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. But the way her camp is going about it may be antagonizing would-be supporters instead. Recently, a faction within Ikaw Muna or I Am Pilipinas defected from the camp of Manila Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Domagoso and declared their support for Ms. Robredo. The move seemed suspicious given that the breakaway group included characters with ties to the Liberal Party that supports the vice president. But if people in Mr. Robredo's camp were hoping for Mr. Dumagoso's supporters to also join her en masse, they may be disappointed. In a news conference, I Am Pilipinas leaders said their group remained intact and committed to Mr. Dumagoso's bid, also for the presidency. In fact, many in his camp were reportedly irate that the vice president seems to be undermining their campaign for her benefit. Earlier, former House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez switched from supporting Senator Panfilo Ping Lacson to Ms. Robredo. Also, her supporters tried to convince Mr. Lacson's running mate, Senate President Vicente Tito Soto III, to switch tickets and take over as Ms. Robredo's bet for vice president. Unfortunately for the vice president, Senators Lacson and Soto are pushing ahead together despite their sagging poll numbers. Worse, their supporters were likely turned off by the moves to undermine their ticket. If Ms. Robredo's camp was hoping for more supporters, all she got was a traditional politician who bolted, according to Mr. Lacson, because his request for campaign funds was denied. Raiding rival camps is nothing new in politics, but Ms. Robredo is not seeing the mass defections that she hopes for because her rivals declined to join forces with her. The logic behind raiding rival camps would be to capture more supporters and bolster the raiders' chances of winning. Based on surveys, the vice president is running at a distant second. Her camp is betting that if only they can forge a united front, she has the best chance of defeating Mr. Marcos. In fact, the vice president's camp talks more about beating Mr. Marcos than their own plans for the country. The elections should not be about any single person, but what a candidate hopes to do in office. In fact, Ms. Robredo could be more popular if she devoted more time to refining her message and explaining why her plans would be better for all Filipinos, including the Marcoses. The country faces many problems and challenges, like poverty and inclusive development. On top of the domestic issues which are legion, there are other challenges that will demand attention from the next president, like navigating the US-China rivalry, climate change, and of course, the lingering COVID-19 pandemic. The problem is not any of the Marcoses, not even the late President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. He was ousted from office more than 35 years ago and died not long after. Those who disagree with this may want to explain why the promises of the EDSA People Power Revolution remain unfulfilled today. This may be a futile, if not a petty, exercise, however. Our sense is that more people prefer looking forward rather than taking a refresher in history. This does not mean ignoring the lessons of the past, but it does assign greater value on the actions needed today in order to realize the promises of the future. Regrettably, Ms. Robredo's camp continues to obsess about the younger Marcos and in so doing alienates his supporters instead of courting them to join her. Unless their tactic changes, the frontrunner in the May 9, 2022 elections may have to thank the vice president's camp for giving him so much attention. As they say, there's no such thing as good or bad publicity, not even in a political campaign. In focusing mainly on Mr. Marcos, the vice president also risks neglecting the other candidates for president, Mayor Dumagoso, Senator Lacson, and 6 others. Some of them, especially those alienated by her raids, might win more votes than her on election day. And that's the editorial for Sunday, April 17, 2022. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print. Subscribe to its digital edition or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And listen to the Voice of the Times.